Hi everyone, good afternoon. This is Tarek speaking from RZ Consulting, and we are hosting today our special guest, Liora Raitblat. She's strategic change management expert, and she's also a TEDx speaker, a TEDx Canada speaker. And welcome, Liora.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, Tarek.
Hi, how are you today?
Doing well, doing well. I'm confined at home.
I hope everybody, are keeping safe. All of you guys, our attendants, and all our members, our entrepreneurs and small business owners. Well, today's topic will be about within the framework of preparation for the after COVID-19, post COVID-19, as businesses are starting to reopen and the government are started to loosen the restrictions about staying at home and the shutting down all businesses and all the public places. Now I think we are starting seeing the sun because it's the spring now, and we are happy for that. And also would like also to talk to our fellow small business owners and entrepreneurs to cope with this new this is the new normal, and this is something that completely changed the market, changed the world, not only here, but in all the countries. So thank you for being our guest, for accepting our invitation, Liora. And I would like also to thank KCSBN and Canada Central BIA for organizing such webinars and talks and interviews with people like Liora from the industry and from the entrepreneur landscape to talk about their expertise and to give some advice to our business owners. So just to introduce Liora Raitblat is a strategic change management expert, and she's today with Deloitte. And myself, I'm Tarek Belghith. I'm managing RZ Consulting. And would like also to exchange some expertise, because this COVID-19 crisis made all the humans, be it from IT and or non-IT background, to cope and to learn how to use the digital and online modern tools. So my question today within this discussion to Liora, after seeing all the organizations impacted and all the businesses impacted with these restrictions and these limitations, even the members of any single organization, are impacted themselves. So today, with the reopening, we'd like to go back to our organization and go back to our teams. And this also requires, with the restrictions, social distancing, sitting away from each other, not getting close to each other. We need also to work on strengthening the organization's culture. And here I'm asking our guest, Liora, how can we, how can you advise our fellow members of our entrepreneurs to start thinking of cascading or populating this culture of strengthening the organization culture within their companies and teams?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a big question right now. Everyone's asking, as we go into this potential virtual workforce, as it's becoming more and more normal to work from home, how do we kind of, strengthen the culture that we have and not lose everyone kind of within their houses? And the first point I want to raise is around leadership. So there's a few facets of how we can really drive, resilient leadership is what we call it in these times. So how can you really focus on embracing the long view? So right now I feel like maybe it's just me, but everyone's kind of looking in phases, right? So what's the next phase? What are we going to be able to do? What's the phase after that? What's that going to look like? But as a leader, really, if you're looking over a team, or even if, you have a number of clients, it's really focusing on embracing the long view. So, what are you focused on in the horizon? Focus on that as you move forward, and with your teams as well. It's not only about, what can we do right now, and then the next phase and the next phase. It's really bringing them in and bringing them in on the, the far mission. We're not just here for a little bit. And how can we really embrace the goal that we had even before our virtual workforce? We're still the same team. We still have the same, mission. So really focusing on that sometimes is, something that we know, but gets lost amidst all the chaos of remote work. So embracing the long view, focusing on the horizon, not losing sight of what your business, what your goals are all about. So keeping that, posted right in front of your computer and keeping that going. And the other piece is around, how are you actually working within the space that you have? So if you're looking at, your team or yourself even, you can see on the screen here, we have a few kind of pointers. And you'll notice that, your workspace has become your life. There's so many different things and capabilities. You can do your stand-ups, your calls, you can do little ideation zones where they use different engagement tools online or different websites to kind of find, engage people in your team to get different ideas. And as a leader and someone who's running a business or entrepreneur, don't be afraid to really use all the tools that you have available to you. So if I look on this screen here, you can see that one of the things that, potentially we used to do back when we kind of interact with each other is whiteboarding things. So let's get ideas, let's get sticky notes up. But we can actually continue to mimic those activities and mimic that collaboration with your team, those brainstorms, that excitement through virtual tools. It's a little bit small on the screen here, but one of my favorites is actually called Miro, M-I-R-O. And if you Google Miro, it's actually a pretty cool tool where it's free and you can actually just whiteboard different things with your teams, with your colleagues, and start to mimic different things that you did within your teams virtually. And so the key to kind of continuing to strengthen the culture as leader is also not to lose those things that we did in person and trying to replicate them as much as we can with some of the tools available, like those two-way whiteboards. And the other thing I want to share, which is something we're doing right now, is video. Oftentimes what we see with ourselves, even some of our clients, is some folks are a little shy to put the video on because they don't want to be the only one, or they don't, it's not always comfortable, and that's okay. But as a leader or as someone who's, working with clients or whatever it is, and if you're comfortable, throw on that video and kind of show them that, it's okay. We're working from our rooms, our bedrooms, our kitchens, whatever it is. And that really helps to strengthen the culture of, we're all in this together. It's okay. We're doing with what we got, and using the tools we have around us to the best of our abilities to mimic, our two-way interaction as best as possible to maintain the culture of we're still a team, we're still going towards the same goals. Sure, we might be working from home, and sure, we have a few things, that we have to go through, but really focusing on that culture, on that team, is really, really going to go a long way.
Great. Well, thank you. But I have a question here. Do you think that with all these restrictions that might be also adopted by the organization or the individual organization itself, will there be a possible change in the roles of some employees, for instance? Because here we will see that meetings, like gathering meetings, will be dropped, and we will replace that with some more digital virtual meeting rooms. I mean, I think some of the habits will change in the workplace. How are you seeing that? I mean, actually, it's an opportunity for us to learn to do new things, but I think digital is becoming the new normal, and we need to adopt it as soon as possible, as fast as possible.
Exactly, yeah, and that's definitely what we're seeing. So we hear the term reskilling a lot, and reskilling the workforce, what does that mean? Well, as we start to kind of, see this new virtual way of working, we'll notice that there are some things that you'll need to pick up quickly, or there's going to be new roles developed. I keep reading articles around the new, what are they calling it? Like VP of Productivity and Remote Work is a new position that's up and coming. And building a culture around what does it look like to have teams who are going to be working remotely for however long. We're seeing companies like Twitter who are actually saying, well, you know what? If you like to work remotely, then keep on going. You don't have to come back to work if you don't want to, which is interesting to see. And we're seeing other companies, I believe like Google saying, well, we're going to be working from home for the rest of the year. So we are seeing that already happening, both between now because of COVID, but also as we move forward, realizing that the virtual workforce is very much a possibility. It's very much a reality. And what we're seeing is some of the roles that we have might have the opportunity to be reskilled. So potentially some items that you were doing, you'll be able to learn new skills as you navigate this new workforce. And so it's definitely something that's up and coming. And one of the examples is like new roles being developed for productivity and remote culture. So how do you maintain that efficiency, effectiveness, the productivity of your team in this kind of new way of working? So there's definitely going to be new skills you might be having to learn, new tools you'll be having to learn, new ways of interacting, and frankly, whole new jobs that potentially weren't developed before, weren't as big before, are going to be as critical right now, especially as we try to navigate this new landscape of, working remotely. So definitely we'll have opportunities for new roles, reskilling, new tools, and a completely new opinion on how your team is going to be engaging with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are seeing even new jobs in the job market that doesn't require the physical presence of the employee. I mean, in the new IT or platform oriented jobs with like this kind of computer tasks and computer jobs. And actually this brings us also to our next question, which is about the engagement in the workplace. I think with the reduction of the physical contact and meeting one-to-one, the meeting in person in the workplace, in the meeting room, this might impact the relationships between colleagues and between team members, either the personal relationships or even the work related relationships when it comes to working on the same project or working on the same task or this kind of things. So how are you seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's all over the place right now. What we're seeing is that everyone's trying to keep up in their own different ways. So some of the clients we work with still don't always have access to log into their VPN or log into their computers during specific hours, just given the network broadband. So what we're seeing is actually with some clients that the hours are starting to differ. They're starting to be not as 9 to 5 as it was before. And so how do you work with the team and stay engaged when your hours aren't always going to be potentially 9 to 5? And this isn't just because some of our folks around aren't able to access networks at given times. It's also because you're dealing with a whole bunch of things in your own household. So, if you have a busy family, if you have kids, if you have other things on the go, it's a little bit trickier to kind of stay put 9 to 5. Sometimes you have to, whether it's with another parent or whatever it is, kind of work together to make sure that your household is still going. And so your hours might be different. What we're seeing a lot actually as well, even in terms of parenting, is that one parent's with the kids in the morning, given that classes aren't always there, and the other one is working, and then they switch. And multiply that, and you'll see that the hours are going to be different. The productivity levels are going to be shifted throughout the day, and the key really becomes to focus on the work. So what is the output? What is actually happening from the team? And focusing less on kind of that 9 to 5 bubble that we've been looking at. And there's a few ways to kind of build empathy, as we see on the slide, and keep your team engaged, especially when there's potentially all this chaos in the background. And so one of the things is really something that we keep hearing and something that I think is really critical to do. But as leaders, as business owners, just be open. I find that sometimes there's folks and even clients we have that, try to rose color everything and say, it's okay, we'll get through this. But the key is actually right now more than ever as a resilient leader is to be transparent and to really share how are we doing from an empathy standpoint. How are we dealing with the different situations? How are we coping with everything that's going on? And what are the types of tools that we're personally using? And sharing that with the team, because that's one of the key ways that we're actually able to build empathy and build that human connection, which is more important now than ever. And we always say it again and again. Some of even the tools that we've seen is before each call, sometimes we have a bit of a 2-minute, 3-minute break and say, okay, let's pause. How is everyone actually doing? And addressing the fact that sometimes it sucks And sometimes that's okay. And we're in it together and we're going to get through it. And even having those moments of, your team members saying, you know what, it's tougher today, and kind of patting on the back and saying, listen, it's okay, we'll get through it. That just adds more and more value to how you interact with your team and helps you become, more committed to the goal and more efficient. And there's studies around that, which is really neat. So really building that value, building that human connection is so, so critical these days, more than ever, and helps people stay engaged, which is really important, especially given individual circumstances. Saying it's okay, we're all going through different things. So building empathy, staying engaged, keeping that human connection, checking in are so, so important right now.
Yeah, great. Thank you for all these explanations. And actually, I just wanted to add that human is perfectly matched to what we see. This picture that we are seeing that puts the pleasantness as a function of the energy of anyone. In the workplace, well, we're not talking about the place anymore because we will not be in a place or physically connected, but it's more about how should team members interact with each other, even if they are not next to each other. I mean, even if they are not physically sitting like a couple of meters away from each other, even if we feel that this person, even if he's working normally, but we feel, I mean, there is some feelings, there are some feelings that we detect them from the way people behaves, from the way someone talks or says hi, or when you ask about him. I think we are more supposed to give more energy, to energize, or to talk in private with this person, to let go part of this stress he's living, or his lack of confidence that he's experiencing. I think this builds better, a more a healthier atmosphere within the same team, right?
Absolutely. And even some of the tools that we've been seeing that are helpful is also to mimic, when we were working in offices, having those folks beside you. What we've seen is actually using Zoom or whatever technology is to keep an open office hour. And what that means is potentially once a week, or whatever the best cadence is, you set a couple hours and say, listen, the call is open. Whoever wants to hop on in. And you can keep on working. You can have a chat. It's really just to mimic that open office collaboration. And it's really great because that means that, if you want to just chit chat with your colleagues or just want to overhear what they're working on while still focusing, you plug in on this Zoom call however often you do it, once a week, couple hours. You can kind of pop in and out as you need, and it helps to mimic that normalcy that we all feel around just like popping into your fellow colleagues at work. So trying to find those items to really mimic that human connection and really be transparent about how you're feeling, what's going on. Yes, it's crazy, but how can we work together to overcome those things given the tools we have? So we're seeing that being really important right now, of course, now more than ever, as I mentioned. All of the individual circumstances are different, and how can we work as a team to do the best we can to be there for each other, understand each other, support each other, but also use the tools and flexibility that we now have to still be productive and efficient in these kind of crazy times.
Yeah, absolutely. So the most important here is to see the positive part of the last 10 weeks or 8 weeks, or I don't know. I don't count the weeks anymore now, but it's been
I lost count. I don't want to count.
A number of weeks where we got to sit with ourselves and ask different kind of questions. I mean, what are we doing now? I mean, we didn't work for weeks, and we developed new skills. We are using online. We are using digital. So we got to learn new tools in the workplace. So let me also ask you the question about the sustainability of the professional and the environment where we need to build an energetic delivery team, or an energetic family of members that deliver a single project. How are you seeing that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's different things that we're doing right now with our with our clients and even as business owners that you're doing just to kind of keep the boundaries for yourselves, but also be able to deliver it. I included this picture here. It's from a famous video a
I remember it.
years ago, right? When you have the, announcer speaking and all of a sudden the kid runs in, and it's funny because I don't know about you, but that's every day, every day someone's on a call, there's a dog, a kid, or whatever it is, it's chaos. And it's actually okay. And we found that the meetings that are actually most efficient is when you're actually able to laugh it off, joke about it, and you just kind of feel a sense of calmness. Something that we actually work on as well is around the idea of iterating your environment. So what that means is, what are some of those things that you can do within your team that you're able to continuously just get a little bit better? What's that extra 10% you can do to make it even better to work as a team? I mentioned earlier those open hour office calls where you can kind of just hop on in. Is it making more of those? Is it making less? Sometimes people feel that there's too many calls, not enough. How can you really find the balance and hear the feedback from your team, whether it's through just quick informal one-on-one chats, surveys, whatever you have, to iterate on that environment and make it work the best for your team? Because right now, it's all about building the right culture. So this iterative process is something that we find, I think, pretty important these days as you're trying to figure out what is the best times for things, how are we delivering, how are we even tracking our work right now, and kind of playing around with the different items that you have available to be the best you can. But on the other side, something that's also as important is establishing boundaries for ourselves. To be able to give, the most value, the most efficient work that you can, you have to create your own boundaries and go by them, even though it's tough. Sometimes you wake up, and my commute went from quite long to down to my, office room. So now that we know we don't have these commute boundaries, now that our days are becoming almost, the same, how can you establish your own boundaries to bring your best self to work? So what I've been seeing is find those things that are really important to you now more than ever. So for example, for me, I try, bear with me, but I try to go on a run at the same time every day. And it doesn't have to be very long. It just has to be something that helps me break apart between the end of my day and the beginning of my evening. So previously this could be a commute, but now it's getting a little foggy. So how do you establish those chunks in your calendar that are, helping you decide exactly when does your day begin and when does your day end? And in doing so, you actually have more mental capacity to bring your best self to work during those kind of busy hour times. So really making sure that you are staying, consistent on, for example, this is my lunch, this is my run, and otherwise, this is when I'm working. And making that transparent with your teams helps them understand, what, it's okay. I can still live my life. I'm still able to get to the boundaries I need. And between those, that's when I bring my best self forward. You don't always have to be on. You don't always have to, shift your hours as needed. You can just understand that these are the boundaries that you set for yourself. And within those, that's when you're bringing your best self to work. And that's how your teams are going to be able to be comfortable to do the same and keep those productive hours in play and not get lost within the endless days sometimes that it seems like.
Yeah, actually, we've been talking about empathy and about boundaries, and I'd like to remind people that these times gave us, taught us to spend more time about with our families, and to spend time about those we love, because in the pre-COVID-19, and maybe we might see the positive part of the COVID-19 crisis here. We got to stay, we spend time with our families and with our friends, and sometimes you need to call someone and ask about him or about her. How are you doing? And people are stressed out, and people are feeling bad, and staying at home for a long time is also impacting. So yes, I think this is a good chance also to review what we've been experiencing during these trying times, and how we need to treat others, and to share love, and to share empathy with others, not only in the workplace, but also in families, with our kids, with our brothers, sisters, parents, name it. So yes, I think this is very important, and I think COVID-19 crisis, it's the first maybe lifetime crisis we live in this of this kind, but we need to also learn new and positive things from it.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And even on that note, just one more item that I'd love to share is just around how to keep your teams engaged around different activities you do together. I've seen team yoga breaks, team smoothie breaks, the coffees. So really, how can we continue to mimic as much as we can of what we see of each other in a way that's efficient, effective, and helping us kind of stay focused on what's ahead and staying true to our goals.
Absolutely. Just before closing this interview, and it was really I was really amazed and honored to have had this interview with you. I think we have a couple of questions from the chat. Number one is coming from Aruba. Is Miro different from Slack? Just this is the question.
Yeah, so Miro is actually a tool that is a whiteboard tool. So if you go to Miro.com, you can actually send a link similar to Zoom, except this is just for whiteboard sharing. So you actually are able to whiteboard on your computer screen, have others come in and actually be able to whiteboard similar to you would right up on the wall. So it's an awesome, awesome tool that I've been using, and it really helps get brainstorming going. You can all edit at the same time. Even if as you're showing different things, getting folks to put stickies on. I love it. And yeah, it's Miro.
So Miro, you think that Miro is also a good tool for the workplace or for teams?
Yeah, definitely.
What?
Miro is something that we've been using a lot for whiteboard collaboration. It's makes a difference. You feel more involved. You're not just sitting and staring at someone. So
I'll spend some more time to play with the functions. We also have another question. Do you think team productivity has improved or deteriorated by working remotely? I think this is a very good question.
That's an awesome question. And
depends on the person, actually.
100%. I would say it depends. What I would say is that there's a lot of folks who now feel comfortable that they don't have to work within their 9 to 5. They're working whenever they have that kind of, maybe they're most effective late at night, early in the morning, and a couple hours in the afternoon. And we're seeing that a lot now too, where, it's becoming a bit more flexible. So some folks are actually enjoying the fact that you're able to do the hours that work best for you, and you're not confined to do everything within, a limited time, assuming you are able to get to your meeting. So definitely depends. Some folks is a little bit trickier, and you're trying to motivate yourself, and you can do that by setting boundaries like we talked about. Other folks are enjoying the flexibility to do the most they can when they feel themselves productive. So it depends, and you do the best with what you can.
Great, thank you. And we have another question from Anne. Thanks, Anne, for the question. She's asking about how to balance different work personalities within the working from home situations, like comparing coworkers who thrive at home versus who doesn't.
Absolutely. So it's all about balance. So we talked about that iterative environment. So actually speaking with your teams and understanding what is it that they actually enjoy, what do they not. Sometimes you do this with one-on-one conversations. It might be a bit much to do with your team, and trying to pick and choose what are the elements that are coming up. But the key is to understand that you're never going to be able to build an environment in the situation that's going to be 100% effective for everyone. But how can you find the most optimal one? Potentially less calls, more calls, different tools, things like that. Some people are definitely more outgoing. Some people prefer to kind of be a bit more introverted. So it's all about finding those little things that you can improve just a little bit here and there to get the average of everyone to feel that they're, able to be comfortable. So iterating, getting feedback, using the most you can, but also understanding that, it is a different way of working, and you do your best to understand everyone's needs, and getting that feedback and including it as part of your team culture. And testing it and seeing if it works, and getting feedback again, and iterating until you're able to achieve something that works, hopefully, for everyone. But understanding that it is tricky, for sure.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Liora, for all these explanations and sharing your experience about how to embrace this new normal and getting ready for getting back to work. And And thank you to all the participants, all the audience. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and activate the bell icon. You can reach out to us through the email address info@rzto.net, and we also would like to extend our thanks again to all our sponsors and organizers, Canada Carton Small Business Network and Canada Central BIA. Myself from RZ Consulting, I'm also happy to host such webinars, and we look forward to having you, Liora, in our next interviews, if you don't mind.
For sure. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And talk to you soon. And thank you everyone for watching this video and for attending this webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great one. Bye bye.